charged, sort of made allegations about Israeli stupidity. And he was going to ask me about whether Israelis are smart or stupid. And I had a response that went something like this. Nobody has a monopoly over geniuses or dunces, and Israel is no exception. We're a normal country in that sense. But if you are an Israeli, you do have a better chance per capita of being a doctor, a successful startup company owner, or a Nobel Prize winner than you do in any other country in the world. And I was not prepared for the Helen Thomas question. No, you couldn't prepare. For those who didn't see the program, we said, Helen Thomas said that the Jews of Israel should go back to Poland, Germany, whatever she said. And he says, I disagree with her. I think the Jews of Israel should stay, and the Palestinians should go. Don't you agree? You can see this. And I had the great honor saying, no, Stephen, I disagree. I said, there is room in this country for both of our peoples, and that we are committed to sharing it in a two-state solution in which Palestinians will have a state of their own, and the Jews will have a state of their own called Israel, and we will live together in permanent, stable, legitimate peace. Boy, I dodged that bullet, huh? That's right. And it has, as Henry used to say, had the added advantage of being true. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Ambassador. Yeah, let's start out our question with Institute for Education Journalism intern Jenny. You have a question for the ambassador? Want to stand up, honey?
Thank you.
Good.
As you indicated in your talk, Israel is facing a lot of problems. Some of them are unique to Israel, and some of them a lot of other countries face. How do you think the young people in Israel, how do you think they deal with confronting these challenges?
Well, they deal it the way with many young people do. We have an extraordinary youth culture, and the Israeli youth revel in their youth culture. I know every country says this, but we have really great rock music. Terrific rock music. And Israelis, there was a fear, MTV came to Israel in the 80s, and there were dire predictions that Israeli music would die out. It turned out to be exactly the opposite. Israeli kids are really into Israeli rock music. And they revel in the youth because they know that when they turn 18, in marked contrast to youth in this country and many countries in the world, they are not going off to college. They will not be joining frats. They will not be playing lacrosse. They will be going to the Army. Men used for an average of 3 years, sometimes longer if they sign on as officers. Women for 2 years, longer if they sign on as officers. Sally and I have had two children. 2 of our older children have served in the Army already. One in Special Forces. My daughter was a medical Army social worker, a very, very hard job, and served in the Second Lebanon War. And now we have a 3rd child, Noam, who is also in Special Forces and in basic training, that will last 2 years, just as basic training, before he becomes a member of his unit. Just finished 6 months. I just finished jumping out of an airplane. I didn't have gray hair. And then Israeli kids are very different than Americans because of the great stresses they endure during the Army. They do not get out of the Army and go to college, really. What they do is they travel. They travel sometimes for years, 2 years, and it's not uncommon to have children who are 25, 26-year-old freshmen in college. And they're in no rush, and they don't feel the same pressures you have. And we have 6 universities that are all listed in the world's 500 top universities. And there's not like saying, oh, I went to Tel Aviv and I didn't get into Jerusalem. It's pretty much the same thing. So there's a lot less pressure on Israeli youth. But they do, and they feel that pressure. They do, but they're terrific. I'll conclude with one last story. We went through some very hard times during the suicide bombing periods between 2000 and 2004. And we were living in Jerusalem, and we knew so many people that had been killed, and including a very close family member who was killed. And it was difficult. Our kids knew people who had some of their friends had been killed. And at one point, Sally came from San Francisco. I came from New Jersey. We met in Jerusalem, and we raised our family there. And at one point, we looked at our kids and said, this was our dream to live in Israel. It was always our dream growing up. But this was our dream. It wasn't our kids. Kids didn't have the same option that we had. And we looked at our kids and said, did we do something wrong? Did we do something unfair to you? And our kids said to us, without any scripting, they said, I do. They said, Mom, Dad, Abba, Ima, raising us in the state of Israel was the single greatest thing you could have done for us. their greatest gift to us, unscripted.
Good. Question, George Reagan.
As you go through the threats that you confront, Hezbollah, Iran, nuclear, latent Middle East, efforts to delegitimate Israel, it strikes me that your potential greatest ally against many of those threats is the Palestinian people, intriguingly, because they themselves have an entrepreneurial spirit. They're highly educated. They are, in some cases, the Jews of the Arab world, right? So I'm wondering whether there's a capacity inside Israel to begin to think about the Palestinian people not as a hostile force adjacent to them on their border, but as a potential two-state allied union to bring a much more prosperous Middle East together, and one that can actually delegitimate the efforts of Iran or Hezbollah to attack Israel.
No, I think I agree with you thoroughly, and only can say that we view the Palestinians, particularly the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank, as a partner. And it's a partner for joint economic development. Right now in the proximity talks we're dealing with water, which is a crucial issue for us, a critical issue for both of us, and approaching it in ways that we can not only address the acute water needs, but think down the road 20, 30 years, and how we can work together to meet the ever-increasing water. Our needs for water are increasing at about 14% per year, something crazy, just off the charts, as the aquifer diminishes. We have one of our ministries is a ministry of economic cooperation with the Palestinians. It's actually Silvan Shalom's ministry. That is his portfolio. It is not without complications. I don't want to wax Pollyannish about this. There are deep